This is Karen Dean of SSK Industries. This is the 21st of August 2014 at the Hilton Parachute Industries Association, and this is her story for National Skydiving Museum. Karen, hi.
Hi. I've been around for a long time. I started jumping in 1972. I was almost 21 and working as a waitress and trying to find something interesting and fun to do. Someone just happened to tell me about skydiving, so I got a group of people together that I worked with, and 7 of us were supposed to go out to the drop zone, which was Greene County Sport Parachute Center in Xenia, Ohio, run by Jim West. And we set a date, and when it came time to go do the training, nobody else wanted to go. So I ended up going by myself, and so I had a class of 1, and it was interesting, and I wasn't afraid or anything, but I went up in the airplane. It was a Cessna 180, not a 182, so it didn't have a step, you know, it just had the wheel. And so on my first jump, I clearly remember the thrill of getting out in the wind and climbing out onto the strut, and my foot slipped. And so I was hanging there by my hands, but as I found out later, that was a good position for skydiving. So eventually I looked back in at Jim, and he kind of grinned at me and gave me a thumbs up, and so I just let go. And it was a static line, of course, that's all there was then. So my parachute opened, I came down safely and everything, and it was so much fun that I knew already that was something that was going to be very interesting to me. And as it turns out, I've been in the skydiving industry more than 40 years now. Soon after I started jumping, I decided to change jobs so that I could have more time for skydiving, which I'm going to say jumping, because back then we didn't use the word skydiving, it was jumping. So I started working for the first company that made skydiving jumpsuits, named Brand X Accessories, and the owner's name was Ed Mosier, and he was a very innovative guy. It was a 2-piece skydiving jumpsuit, and at that time many people had those jumpsuits, and I still have a couple, which is what I put down on my form that I would donate to the Skydiving Museum. They're kind of old, of course, and they're really big. They're not like little tiny jumpsuits that people wear now to fall fast. They were meant to slow you down to fall slow, so that you could do larger formations and have more free fall time. So I did do a lot of free fall, and being a girl was an advantage because there were lots of guys that were willing to help me with things. So I got onto a lot of loads that otherwise I wouldn't have, and because I was light and small, I got to go last a lot of the time, so it was a really great experience. And one of the most fun things about skydiving was the diving to get to a formation. So our drop zone was not a big drop zone. We usually did 4 ways or 8 ways, or when we had a beach, we'd do a 10 or 12 way. So that was fun, and I got pretty good at that. I went to the nationals 1 year in style and accuracy, not relative work, but style and accuracy. Did okay, but it really wasn't that exciting. One of the most exciting things was going to Zephyr Hills for the turkey meet, and I was there the year that there were 100 10-man teams, and I got to do that.
What year?
I don't remember what year that was. I think it was somewhere in the mid-70s, maybe even, no, let's see, it was probably more like 80s. I'm not sure, you'd have to ask somebody else when that was. I've had so many years go by, it's hard to remember what was what year. But that was fun. It was all at the old side of the Zephyr Hills Airport, not where it is now. So, and in that time, at our home drop zone, we also got started in canopy relative work, CRW. So, after doing a little bit of 4-way, because I was on a all-women exhibition team that we jumped at air shows at, called the Falling Angels, and that was myself and Pat Valley, Nancy Curlin, and Suzanne Shear at the time, or Suzanne Brownlee, whichever you want to say. But anyway, we went around and did air shows, jumped at the Dayton Air Fair, and even Oshkosh one year. And that was fun. And we got a lot of attention, of course, being 4 women. You know, there were always guys that were willing to help us out with things. So anyway, for the skydiving part of it, the 4 of us did a 4-woman CRW stack. And then from there, we got into developing into a larger formation, and we eventually added some guys and a couple more girls, and we practiced a whole lot one summer. That was kind of, we were devoting the summer to CRW. And so we ended up, after some time, getting a 10 canopy stack. I was the top. They called that the pilot. And I felt like I grew taller during that time, because it wasn't like just hooking your foot in lines the way they do now. You're actually holding on to the top of the parachute, and all the people under you gets heavier and heavier because of the stress. So that was fun, and we got a 10-way world record. Let me see, I think I even wrote down when that was. I think it was June of 79, June 23rd of 79. And I think we are in the Guinness World Book of Records. And then about a month later, we went to Richmond, Indiana, where there was a boogie being held, and we did another record, which was 12 in the canopy stack. So just to remind myself a little bit more about it, I was the top person, Don Buckland was second, Nancy Curlin third, Pat Valley fourth, Andy Spurlock, Terry Burris, Jeff Saunders, Brian Barrett, Jim Fangmeyer, Roger Gardner, Jane Marchant, and Chris Milligan, who, by the way, I later married. But that was a lot of fun, and I feel that that was something that was so unique that not too many people, other than the ones I just named, had the same experience that I did in that regard. And in the meantime, I was still working making parachute jumpsuits. And in 1981, I got pregnant, and my husband, Chris Milliken at the time, wanted to move to Zephyr Hills. So I bought the business from the previous owner, Ed Mosier, that was Brand X, and we moved it to Zephyr Hills. And so I was making jumpsuits down there. At some point, a few weeks after my son was born in 1982, we had a fire at our house where I was making jumpsuits, and it pretty much destroyed the house and the business. And with a new baby, I decided to move on to other things. So moved out to the Pope Valley area. I guess Pope Valley had just closed. I had never got to see anybody jump out there. You had been, I assume. No. Yeah. And so I was working making flight suits, another jumpsuit company, Gary and Wendy Carter, and really liked California, but came back here eventually because of family. And so the next business I got into, skydiving business, was called SSK Industries Incorporated. And that was Stuart Schmucker Couts, SSK. The person that hired me was Cliff Schmucker, who I later got involved in a serious relationship with. And in fact, he was one of the trustees of the National Skydiving Museum until he was killed about a year and a half ago in a skydiving accident. But I've worked there for more than 30 years now, and I'm going to be retiring next week at the end of this month. So this will be my last Parachute Industry Association meeting, at least as a company member. And it's been a lot of fun, and have got to meet a lot of people in the skydiving industry, and I don't feel like I would be the same person I am if it hadn't been for parachuting and skydiving and working in the industry all this time. But I miss Cliff, and he was a trustee of the National Skydiving Museum. So I'm hoping that the Skydiving Museum will become a reality at some point. And I, of course, would go there to see it. And I want to encourage anybody to donate things. I have a couple of Brandex jumpsuits to donate to it. And Lenny Potts has been great, and all the other people are very nice also. So I guess this is sort of my goodbye to the Parachute Industry Association as a member.
Fantastic. What do you see coming up? Do you have somebody who's taken your place?
When Cliff died,
Yeah.
his share of the business went to his two sons, Adam and Nathan Schmucker. And they have actually bought me out of my share of the business because they knew I've been wanting to retire for a couple of years. So they are running the business now. Our business primarily is involved with Cypress, the cybernetic parachute release system that is produced in Germany, and we are the Western Hemisphere Service Center. Yes, that's Cypress. We're the Western Hemisphere Service Center. So in addition to probably being the main company to sell to the sport market here in the United States, we also are the exclusive for the required for an 8-year maintenance on the Cypress. So we're pretty busy doing that, and I'm ready to move on and look for new adventures now. Won't be as exciting as skydiving probably, but now that I'm 62, you know, you have to be a little more careful with your body.
Thank you, Karen.
Sure.
Do you have anything else?
Not that I can think of.
Well, thank you very much for
Sure.
doing this.
Okay.
Fantastic.
Thank you.